As your president mentioned, I have the great distinction to represent the northern part of Ohio. And if you're from Ohio, we're having a pretty good run here. The Ohio State University has made it to the Final Four. If you are a Republican, our guy, Mr. Boehner, is the speaker. And we're also celebrating for the first time in 8 years that we don't have an Ohio member in prison from our delegation. All good news. And as a matter of fact, it was the first fellow who sadly went off to jail who told me a story one time about Washington and how this place works, and it really is a what have you done for me lately kind of place. And he used to tell the story, Mr. Trafficant, you may remember Mr. Trafficant, he was big for Beam Me Up and a variety of other things, but he told the story of 3 televangelists that were out on the town one evening and with their wives, and they were all in a minivan and were struck by a train, and all were dispatched to the pearly gates. And the first one went up to St. Peter and said, St. Peter, I've taught the gospel for 40 years, and certainly my wife and I deserve to get into heaven. And St. Peter said, well, Smith, that's right, but everybody knows that you loved liquor more than you did the Lord, and that's why your wife's name is Brandy, and we're not going to let you in here today. Second one, Jones goes up, same thing, 45 years, and he says, well, Jones, everybody knows that you loved money more than you did the Lord, and that's why your wife's name is Penny, and you're not getting into heaven either. Well, the third one's watching this with interest, and he turns to his wife and he says, Fanny, I don't think we're getting in here today. And that, for me, sort of summarizes Washington, D.C. and the legislative process. Kevin asked that I talk about a couple of things, and actually as I was coming in, I was told that some of you might have an interest in the highway bill, so I'll get that out of the way early. I was listening to Secretary Salazar, and I would say that I certainly applaud what he and the President are doing on fuel efficiency and everything else, but one of the things that you have to remember when the nation's roads and bridges are built with the 18-cent gas tax when you fill up your car with gasoline, every time you take that fuel efficiency higher and higher from 8 to 18 to 35 to 55, it reduces the purchasing power of that gas tax, and it's why both the House and the Senate are having a very difficult time dealing with the reauthorization of the highway bill, because in so many instances there just isn't enough money to get it taken care of. But relative to the issue that some of you may care about, there was a big move in the House markup to alter the weight adjustments for tractor trailers and also to add to the number of trailers. They wanted to, in some instances, go to triple trailers on our nation's highway. And it was a big fight between the trucking industry and those on the safety side, and also the railroads weren't so crazy about it. The proposal was to take the permitted weight from its current standard to, in some cases, 96,000 pounds, and in other instances, 122,000 pounds in triple trailer. Now, if you think about the size of a triple trailer and what that creates in terms of a safety problem on our nation's highways, take your little car, even if you drive a minivan, take your car and put it up against, next time you're at the airport, if they let you through, put it up against a 737-700. That's the difference in length between your automobile and what they were proposing in terms of not only weight, but size to put on the highway. So luckily that effort was beaten back in the House. It still is alive. The advocates are still out there. And so as you wander around the Hill and talk to your members of Congress and your senators during the course of your convention, you might want to just mention to them, if you think this is an issue of public safety, as I do, that we don't need to have our families and our friends and our constituents driving in their minivans next to a 737-700, particularly on the Pennsylvania Turnpike or the West Virginia Turnpike or some of those other roads. Now, let me just talk about the appropriations process and why you have a true gem in Kevin O'Connor. Kevin O'Connor is kind of like that. You go over to your aunt's house or your grandmother's house for Thanksgiving, and she has that annoying little fluffy dog, and all through the meal, you're trying to enjoy your turkey or your roast beef or whatever it is, and that darn dog is always like nipping at your heel or biting your ankle. That's Kevin O'Connor. And that's what Kevin O'Connor does for you, because he makes sure on any day, and it doesn't matter Republican or Democrat, House member or Senate member, he makes sure that each and every person that he comes in contact with knows what it is that the IAFF is interested in, and he presents arguments. You know, there are a lot of people that comb the Hill and talk about a lot of fancy issues and things of that nature, and quite frankly, a lot of them are full of crap. They don't know what they're talking about. But when Kevin comes in and makes his statements on behalf of the firefighters of America, he does it with authority, and his facts always check out. And as a result, you do better on Capitol Hill than some others. Now, we're in the middle of budget week, and I have to tell you that, again, on your Hill visits, we're having everybody knows we're broke. We got a big problem in this country in that we are spending and borrowing 40 cents of every dollar that we spend out of Washington, D.C. this year. You couldn't do it in your home. There's no business that could survive in that regard. And so everyone agrees that we have to find a way to sort of smart size our spending and smart size our government so that we're not borrowing trillions of dollars from the Chinese and others around the country and around the world. But the key is smart size. What decisions do you make to get within a budget number to still provide the requisite services that the government needs to provide so its citizens are safe? In last year's budget, famously called the Ryan budget, all of the pain, if you will, was put upon something called non-defense discretionary spending. So that's the SAFER Act, that's the FIRE Act, that's education, that's the environment. It's anything other than defending our country or paying out the benefits in Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. Some of those accounts took a hit of about 24%. Now, why is that? The big money in the federal budget is in fact located within Social Security, Medicare, the interest on the debt, and Medicaid. But nobody wants to touch those programs. Nobody wants to have the political courage to say, you know what, when Social Security was started, the life expectancy in this country was 63. Today it's 79. It was never designed to be a program that sustained somebody for as many years in retirement as it did during the time that they were working and paying into the system. As a matter of fact, when I go into a senior center and talk to some of the blue-haired ladies, I tell them, you know, most of you are supposed to be dead before you got on to Social Security. And so unless we make some adjustments that recognize that people are living to 79 today as opposed to 63, the pressure and the pain is going to continue to be borne on that small percentage of the budget that is in fact non-defense discretionary spending. So your challenge, I think, is to go out and be an advocate for, you know what, maybe, I grew up in the 70s, I can remember the $800 toilet seat, the $900 hammer that was purchased by the Pentagon. Maybe there are other items within the government that can afford to have a haircut, that can afford to be looked at to achieve those savings so that it doesn't all come out of the non-defense discretionary. Now, back to the fluffy little dog that is Kevin O'Connor. And this is a story about why I think it's important and why the firefighters are forward-looking when it comes to their government relations. Whether you like it or not, America seems to like split government. For many people back in Ohio and around the country, separation of powers means that one party controls the White House and the Senate, one party controls the House of Representatives, the theory being that we keep an eye on each other. Now, if you're paying attention at all, we're not doing a very good job of keeping an eye on each other, but that at least is what makes people comfortable. And so a strategy, since the Constitution says all the spending bills and all the taxing bills have to start in the House of Representatives, a legislative strategy that says we're only going to go talk to one side is a legislative strategy that's not going to work. And let me just talk about last year when we were trying to determine, reauthorize and refund SAFER and the fire grants program. There was a big fight, and you may not have even known there was a big fight because you had the fluffy little dog working for you here on Capitol Hill, but there was a big fight there was a big fight on whether or not the waivers would be maintained moving forward on the fire grants. Now, the fire grant program has been a wonderful thing for I don't represent any big cities, biggest cities, 50,000, Mentor, Ohio. And it's been a wonderful program to get breathing equipment and other training that they wouldn't have had the ability to afford. For other departments, it's the trucks that is where it's at. But for many departments, many of the bigger departments, it's the ability to bring back and retain experienced firefighters. There were some that were making the argument, well, we shouldn't be able to use these funds to bring back experienced firefighters. We should only be able to use them to hire new firefighters. I don't know about you, but if I'm having a medical problem, I don't want the pimply-faced guy that just got out of medical school. I want the guy or gal who's been doing the heart operations for an experienced period of time. And the same thing with you and your profession. If my house is on fire, maybe the cadet isn't the person that I want putting out the fire, saving my family. Maybe it's the person that's been on the job 15 or 20 years. And so those waivers, which came down to the 11th hour, were not originally in the House bill. Kevin came to Republican members of the House, in particular a guy from Iowa, Tom Latham, and he said, we need to have this included in the final package. He was fought tooth and nail. It went down to the wire. But at the end of the day, Tom Latham, fuzzy little dog, got your waivers into the final bill and protected your jobs. I like saying nice things about Kevin, but he's probably done talking to me for a couple of years. But that's how the thing works. You have to have friends on both sides of the aisle. You have to come in with honest arguments. You have to come in with compelling arguments that are going to carry the day. The firefighters have done that. This is my 18th year here, and they've consistently done that. And those organizations that do that and those organizations that do that well are going to win more fights than they're going to lose. So my congratulations. I hope you have a wonderful conference here today, and just come see us and put out all the fires and save as many lives as you can. Thank you, and God bless you.